TikTok refugees have been flooding Xiaohongshu or Red Note in China. We're going to talk today about the good, the bad, and the not so ugly. But in particularly, towards the end, we're going to talk about the challenges that they represent for the government in China and the US. Today, I'm joined once again by Jerry Gray to talk about this enormous phenomena that is going to change the way we see each other around the globe. Jerry, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you. Well and rested after a few days off.
Yes, indeed. Well, guys, we have all seen what is taking place. The TikTok refugees became a hashtag and it's all over social media. Given the ban of TikTok or the potential ban in a few days of TikTok, people have been looking for options in the West. So Americans started downloading Xiaohongshu or Red Note, making it the number one downloaded app in the US app stores. So this is unprecedented. This is something. It's a big slap in the face to the government that is trying to take away freedom of speech for the people, trying to hide the real reasons for the ban, saying that is national security, and American people just saying, you know what? We know this is not the reason, so let's go and give our own data to to this Chinese app. Important to notice that if there is one social media company that actually abides by all the rules of the United States, is TikTok. You can Google Texas Project, not like Meta or the others who actually have servers all over the world. Um, it's important to keep that in mind. So, Jerry, why don't we talk a little bit about any other details about the background on this situation? We start talking about the beautiful things that we have seen taking place with these exchanges.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, you're right. It's enormous. This is possibly one of the biggest media events in recent times. It is enormous, and it's showing cracks. We talked about the Great Wall, and it's showing cracks in the Great Wall, but it's not. What it's doing is it's showing an opening of the Great Wall of China to allow people outside to come in and have a look and see what they think. Now, in terms of the background to this, there is a court case happening the day after tomorrow, the 18th. It's happening. So this court case is going to go ahead, and it will make a decision on whether or not TikTok will be sold, cease to operate, or the whole thing gets kicked out and we're back to normal. But I think even if it goes back to normal, then Xiaohongshu still will retain millions of new followers. Now, it's also worth noting that Lemon 8, Lemon number 8, is the number 2 downloaded app in the West right now, and that's also a Chinese social media platform.
It's also
So it,
ByteDance.
yeah, that's right. Also owned by the same owners of TikTok. Yeah, that's another little story, but we'll come into that. Now, one of the things that I wanted to point out, and we have talked about it, you and I have talked about it before, about a year ago, when this legislation was first proposed, went through the House, and then got passed, and it was called, nicknamed, if you like, the TikTok ban. It is not a TikTok ban. This is a control of foreign owned social media apps. In fact, foreign
Mm.
owned apps that the West or America deems to be a threat to their national security. So, in other words, TikTok is not the topic of this ban. It's whether or not they can stop people in America from accessing information that these elite masters, whatever you want to call them, the cabal, the swamp, all the names from the people who are controlling our information, or should I say, controlling our misinformation, do not want everyone in the world to have access to the real story. So they have created this legislation, and it's not a TikTok ban. It is a foreign owned media ban. If this goes through, then it's quite likely that Xiao Hongshu could
Yeah.
also be banned tomorrow, as could Lemonade, as could Tencent, as could WeChat. All of these things will be encompassed under the legislation that has been written and is now being challenged by TikTok because they are the only company currently affected by this. If TikTok loses this court case, America will have the ability to literally close down or take ownership of every single app that is used in America that is not American owned. Simple as that. So let's get that into perspective first. The TikTok ban is actually the foreign owned app control. It's not a
Yeah,
ban
so
on TikTok. And TikTok has a choice. They can sell to an American controlled company, or they can close down, and they probably will close down. People say, well, why are they giving up such a large market? Well, they are, because it's sovereignty. And also, it's not their largest market.
yeah.
China and, well, Douyin is much bigger. And also, I think Indonesia is the number one market that they have, but they're big in Malaysia. They're big in a lot of countries where, America are not as important as they think they are.
Yeah, the market share of the US in TikTok's global market, it's not that big. Not that they would like to lose that, but
No, no, nobody
as
will.
a matter of principle, okay, good. You make your your citizens suffer. You make your citizens unhappy. That's up to you.
Mm,
We want to talk about the positives and the negatives. One of the
sure.
positives is, as we were talking in preparation, the people to people connection that is taking place, which is absolutely beautiful. People
Yeah.
are connecting at a personal level. People are coming to Xianghongshu and they're seeing how people live here in China. They're seeing things and comparing things, and they're coming out with questions and wondering how on earth did we not know about this. People are talking about insurance costs. People talking about health bills. People
Mm.
talking about shopping, grocery, the
Shopping.
cost of
Yeah, just
groceries.
grocery shopping.
Just
Mm.
grocery shopping has been an eye opener for a lot of people. But people are talking about how clean the places are, how modern things are, the EVs, the cars, the technology, the fashion. People are talking about how handsome some guys are, and so how beautiful some women are, and the clothes. It's a beautiful thing. I call it a beautiful accident because
Yeah.
it is really bringing people to the other side of this fence, that many people think that it's actually the firewall, the Chinese firewall, that was preventing um, Westerners from seeing. When the firewall is there, you and I and so many other YouTubers and well, content creators have been trying to tell people how good China is,
Mm.
right? We've done it
What's
for years.
really interesting, what's really interesting about this is this firewall has prevented many Chinese people from finding out the misinformation of the West, and it's protected them from that misinformation. There is a lot of division. I mean, if you just mention the word vaccines in America, you're going to get people from both sides of the argument piling on you. Whatever it is you say, someone says you're wrong, and
Hmm.
that's the problem that they have. Now, here's an interesting point: the firewall has never ever kept anybody out of China. Xiaohongshu has been open. Douyin is open. Weibo is open. WeChat is open. They are all open to people to come into China for a look. They always have been. So this is, you call it an accident. I call it an attempted suicide by the media controllers. It may not have been an intentional suicide, but you're, I know you're recovering from flu. I hope you're okay. It may not have been an intentional suicide, but they have literally shot themselves, not in the foot, but in an artery, and they are slowly bleeding to death now in terms of control. They can no longer control because now everyone knows China has always been what we said it was: open, transparent. It's a clean, healthy, stable, secure, getting wealthy. It has had poverty. There's no doubt about that. It's coming from that into a affluent society. and it's also cost effective. It's a place where you can live, you can travel, you can buy things that are affordable. You can get there. There are people who are coming here as health refugees, health tourists,
Mm,
and paying for. And we had this discussion with Luke a while ago. His father came into, or his stepfather, I think it was,
yeah.
came to China and had an operation which he had to wait months for in the UK and paid hardly anything for it, a couple of thousand
Mm,
quid. And this is the sort of thing that is getting out now. So this is not an accident, or if it was an accident, it's actually a self-inflicted accident, and they are,
mhm.
in terms of their survival, they're bleeding to death right now. How to stem the flow, I don't know. There are so many people now realize that what you and I have been saying for many years, China is open, China is transparent, come and have a look. Now they can, and they can do it digitally, and they can do it physically, people to people exchanges. 20 million new people came here. More than 20 million people arrived in China without a visa in 6 months. They came in,
China
had a
has
look.
been China has been opening as much as they can.
Yeah.
They've been removing these visa requirements for 144 hours,
Mhm.
for 2 weeks. Now extended to 30
30
days.
days.
More and more countries. So more and more people come here to see, and those bloggers or those tourists that post what they see immediately get attacked and are told, "Oh, you're just showing what you can show. You're just showing what you can show. You're just showing what they let you show." Us living and working here and creating content automatically called shills, automatically called, "Oh, you're paid by the CCP." They say is the CPC anyway, but the thing is now they're connecting with 300 million Chinese
Yeah.
that are showing them, like, what I mean, overnight with no preparation. Like,
Yeah.
how effective would the government
This
have to
this
be
is not a
to prepare
Potemkin goal.
something like that?
You can't. They have got, and this is absolutely true. They have got in the UK and in Taiwan and in America, they have got paid squads of people on social media to push false narratives or to push narratives. They may not be false, but to push narratives. And in China, they don't have this. The Wu Mao army, if it did exist, we'd both be in it and we know about it, but it doesn't
Mm,
exist. And we would be in it, or we'd certainly know about it for sure. So the fact is, what you've got here is real people, and there are hundreds of millions of them using this app. Any person now from outside of China can come into China digitally or can
mm,
physically arrive in China and ask anyone that they meet, either online or in person, what do you think of the CCP? And they'll say, "Oh yeah, well they're a bit bad about the parking in my street, and I wish they get my banking system sorted, which I wish they would get the banking system sorted out. But would you like to have a democratic government like America?" There'd be no,
no.
get out of it. So in essence, what we've got here is a situation where any single person who has any doubt about China can now simply come in, have a look around, ask questions of anybody that they meet, and walk away with a response that will make them think. Why did I
Some of
not know this?
That's the question. Why has this been kept from me?
Yeah,
Why why haven't I heard about this before? And this is a video that I made in 2020 where I was saying, like, if you knew what we experience, if you knew what we live, you would be wondering, where is your tax money going? You would be
yeah,
wondering why your leaders are such a failure.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's that simple. But I think that one of the most important takeaways to bring this message to you is people are starting to realize so many things about China. Number one, that they're not monolithic, that they have different opinions,
Yeah.
that they have the freedom to express those opinions. They're not oppressed at all
Mm.
whatsoever. That's a huge takeaway. One of the issues that a lot of people talk about is, oh, what about LGBTQ XYZ? Like, there are. There are,
Mm.
and there are some people actually complaining. There's a comedian, I think he's an Australian comedian, who posted a photo on his Xiaohongshu, and it was hilarious to see him bombarded by gay people, gay guys, trying to hit on him and trying to contact him, and he's like, "What have I done?"
Floodgates are open.
It's so absolutely delicious to see
Yeah.
all these stereotypes, all these false narratives just going poof in the air.
Mm.
None of them are true. None of them exist. The whole story about people asking about the social credit score. Oh, tell me about the social credit score. Like, what are you talking about? We don't have any of that.
Yeah.
It's
300
such a
million people
beautiful
are
thing.
either all liars or I've
Hmm.
been misinformed.
And coordinated overnight to answer.
Yes. Yeah, because nobody expected this. I don't think, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how this started, but like all viral things, there will be a source to this. Someone on TikTok has said, I've just gone and tried Xiaohongshu, and two or three people are doing the same thing who are very, very large TikTokers. And that is making TikTokers into TikTok refugees. And the first thing they do, there's a lot of videos with people, and I've seen a lot of these already. There's a lot of videos of people saying, "Look, this is my first time on Xiaohongshu. Please be nice to me," and getting masses of replies saying, "Welcome." And that is what Chinese people do and always have
God damn
done.
it.
When you
God damn
walk
it. They're
into,
so
go on,
welcoming.
yes, you and I have both traveled extensively in China. You with your caravan or RV trailer, as you like to call it, because you speak Americanese, and me with my bicycle. And you walk into a strange town. Some of these have never seen foreigners, or if they have, not in years. And there's kids there who go, "Wow, you're the first Uyghur I've ever seen, or Laowai that I've ever seen." And you start talking to them. Initially, when you walk in, you get these kind of looks which can appear hostile. It's like,
Just
what's going
curiosity.
on? Yeah, it's curiosity. And that is the most, you say ni hao, and they go, wow, you can speak Chinese. No, I just said ni hao. Oh, you can speak even more Chinese. No, I only said, I don't speak Chinese.
Just
Honestly, look at
repeated
you can
myself.
speak Chinese. Yeah. And that's what you
The
get. It's just so nice. I
the
mean,
amount of times that I've been invited to, to to my meals, as in people just
yeah,
give you free food or people
I
pay
was
for
just
your
about
bill.
to say that. I can't count the number of free meals I've had when I've been on the road. People at the next table, they say hello
Yeah,
to you and they say, what are you doing? We're riding a bike across China. And they chat to you for a little while. And then when you
and your
go to
bill is
pay them,
paid.
it's already been paid for. And they're
Yeah,
not even there to say thank you to. They've gone. That's how it
they're
happens in
just
China.
that is the most beautiful thing that is taking place when Westerners are discovering that Chinese are not the enemy, that the government of China is not the enemy. The government of China is actually allowing and nurturing these Chinese people
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
what you see, to become what you see, to experience what you see. Again, the fashion, the infrastructure, the jobs, the funny comments. That's all who they are.
yeah.
So this unveiling of real China, it's is I think we're being made redundant, Jerry.
I don't mind. I'm looking forward to retirement and it would be great. Um, I think I'm you know this. I'm a huge fan of Xi Jinping. I think he's one of the greatest leaders in modern history, without a doubt. But he had a good foundation on which to start. His, in my opinion, the Belt and Road Initiative is fantastic. But in my opinion, his best policy ever was to announce that we want more people-to-people exchanges, and that has been fantastic for China. It's been fantastic for the world actually because more people can come here. I think he wanted to cover the cost of 50,000 Americans to come to China,
Mm, yeah.
and they will come as students and groups, and you can apply to the Chinese government to get this grant to take a group of kids to China and see for yourself. That's been fantastic. And I think that's an even bigger initiative than the BRI in terms of the PR for China.
Mm,
That's my aside from this. But the fact is, he didn't have anything at all to do with the TikTok refugee system. America did that. And
Yeah.
that is the greatest irony of all.
So many
America,
memes.
yeah,
So many
in their
memes. Just
efforts to
sit
stop the truth about China coming out, have just exposed the truth about China.
sit back
Yeah,
and watch them unravel.
yes, that's exactly
Now
what's happening now.
there's a thing that a lot of people are wondering is how long is this going to last? How long
Yeah.
is the novelty of the foreigners on the app going to last? From helping children with their homework, from talking about cat tax, from learning about American slang that they bring in from TikTok. Like there's something called the raw next question, which I'm too old to know what this is about.
I'm even older than
Um,
you.
the meme about the meme about my Chinese spy, saying goodbye to my Chinese spy. All these things are just creating such an endearing image of the Chinese people, trying to connect, trying to learn, trying to to be multipolar, so to
Mm,
speak, to be part of the world. But the question about how long will that last, I think one of that revolves around the ability for content creators in the West, in America, for example. A lot of Europeans are also joining this refugee status and
well, they'll be
coming
seeing
to,
they'll be seeing the phenomenon and saying, "Why not have a look?" Yeah.
yeah, is can they actually monetize whatever content they create on Xiaohongshu? Because one
Mm,
thing that people kind of like forget about is that TikTok has become a source of income for a lot of people in the United States.
yeah.
Not only people as content creators, but also businesses that get to advertise and promote and do activities on
Mm,
TikTok and generate income and sales through this particular social media. That once the ban is passed, or if it does pass, then it's gone.
mm,
And they won't be able to rely on Xiaohongshu because there's no easy or quick solution to monetization. And why would they go on a Chinese social media platform to get customers from around the corner? It's not
yeah.
going to solve the financial situation for them.
For
What's your
for
take
a
on
lot
that?
of businesses, no. And let's be honest, that social media, the vast majority of people on social media do not monetize. So in
Mm,
that context, I think it's going to continue. Now, I believe no matter what happens on the 18th, whether or not the so-called TikTok ban goes ahead or whether it gets squashed by the court, it won't make any difference because the cat is out of the bag. You know, the box is open. You can't close it now. There are millions of new Xiaohongshu users who are having fun. And that was
mm,
really what TikTok was all about. It became a source of income. Now, it can still be a source of income for you. And there's no reason at all why people in America, if you're in Washington, D.C., and you want to sell something to someone in Washington State, there's no reason why you couldn't use a platform like this through an agency. And there are already agencies in existence. I've been approached by several of them. I'm no doubt you have to say, we can take your platform much better, much higher. It
mm,
happens all the time, and I'm not interested in that. I'm not on social media to make money. I have recently monetized my YouTube platform because I want to employ an intern and an editor, and I want to get that going forward when the money starts rolling in. But I'm not in this to make money. I'm in this to cover my costs. That's why I've monetized. So from my perspective and from the perspective of many millions of people, we don't go on social media as a business. We go on to make content and to show, in our cases, show China as it is. Now, if I'm made redundant by this, I'm quite happy about that because I didn't get into this to do that. And a lot of people will be taking over from me in a totally different, more social, more fun, more a passive environment where they can have a lot of fun and learn stuff about each other. And that's already happening. We're seeing that straight away. It was happening on TikTok, but to a much lesser extent. It was happening on TikTok. There were Chinese
mm,
people on TikTok talking to Westerners. But then, of course, they say, "Oh, you must be CCP because you're on a VPN, and that's
Yeah.
illegal," and which is another of the myths which are just being dispelled now.
Right.
So it is interesting. It'll be interesting to see what China does in terms of loosening up the restrictions on finance leaving China. So big money earners, 50,000 US dollars a year plus, those
Mm.
people will not be able to get their money out of China if they're making money on any Chinese platform. So that needs to be looked at. Whether or not Chinese government are interested in doing that, I don't know just yet. That's down the track, but I think it will change. They're always constantly tweaking the rules, and they may say that international influencers on a Chinese platform can have some kind of exemption to the rules, or
Yeah.
maybe there's a way that they can do it internationally. But agencies are already in place to do this, and there are people who make money in China on Chinese media, but I don't know of anybody in China on Chinese media making money on an international scale at any
Mm.
amount. They'll be doing it
Mm.
through Chinese banks, and that limits them to 50,000 US dollars a year in the money they can take out of the country. That's a limit. I've experienced that a few times.
There's also the other side of this, looking on the other side of the fence. So the Americans are actually looking into China and saying, "Oh my God, look at your
Mhm.
cities, look at your buildings, look at your train, look at your." They're looking at all these great things, but at the same time, when they're having these conversations, a lot of Chinese are discovering that the other side is not that green.
What they thought it
They're
was.
actually realizing for the first time that life in America is not peaches and roses and walks in the
Yeah.
park, and
Well,
that is going to be very important for bursting that bubble of the Chinese liberals that tend to idealize America as, oh, is the best, is the American. That is going to be shattered through these exchanges between Chinese and Americans, and that's another side effect of these
yep.
exchanges that are taking place.
Yeah, millions and millions of dollars are spent on organizations like Voice of America to
Mm,
promote America to the Chinese market, to pretty much every market, but they have Voice of America, Chinese channel, and that has now been shattered, the illusion of American greatness. Now, in all honesty, American greatness is not an illusion. What it is, it's a past. If you go back to the
mm,
1950s, 1960s, America was great. America had the best cars, the best accessories in the home. It had the best fashion. It had the best TV. It had the best movies. It had all of the great things that you think this is how the world should be. America in the 1950s is how the world should have become. And then they went to Vietnam. And as far as I'm concerned, after the death of Kennedy, the murder of Kennedy, probably a better way, after the
mm.
murder of John F. Kennedy, because there's too many Kennedys have been murdered, but after the murder of John F. Kennedy, America went down the gurgler, and it's taken until now for many of them to realize just how badly they went down the gurgler, because they do still believe, and they're misinformed into believing they are still the greatest country on earth. And we're proud to
Exceptionalism.
be American. I've got an American flag on my tent, they would say, because
Mm.
they're living in the street. And this is a really, I live in the greatest country on earth, but I haven't got a home. I have to live in my car, on a park bench, or in a tent. And they'll put an
And I
American
can't go to
flag on it and
hospital.
say, look how patriotic I am for my great country. So America
Mm.
now needs to look at this and say, something is wrong, and we didn't know. And Xiao Hongshu is showing them. And it's impossible to hide. I've said this many times, and I've said this in public forums. You can tell a lie, you can propagate the lie, you can amplify the lie, you can pay people to push that lie into as many places, but you can't hide the truth forever. And it's
Mm.
now, this is why I think this is the biggest thing in media since media. It is the biggest thing since the publication of the first newspaper. It really is huge as far as America-China relations are concerned, at a people-to-people level, this has changed the world. Yeah,
Basically, nobody's doing anything. Nobody's doing anything. This is just happening
it's
so
organic.
naturally
Yeah,
and organically. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, However, there's also some challenges and some controversies and some
yeah.
issues, like what to post. You've
Mm,
seen probably, as I have, people on X saying like, "Oh, try to talk about Tiananmen Square. Try to talk about the Uyghurs. Try to talk about COVID. Try to talk about the child labor. Try to talk about," and see how quickly you get canceled. See how quickly
yeah.
you get suspended. Now, here's the thing: what can be posted really depends on how you approach it. And you have
Correct.
a very important take on this. Why don't you share with us?
Yeah, there's a rule, and it's in Xiao Hongshu's rules. I think it's Rule 1.4, which basically says you must tell the truth. And this is a
Hmm.
fact of Chinese media and Chinese social media. Now, most people know that I write for several Chinese media outlets. I write for Global Times, predominantly Global Times, but I also write for others to a lesser extent. When you write for Global Times, when you write for Guangdong Television or CGTN or CCTV or any of these people, whether you're writing an article or a script, if you put a fact in there, you have to support your fact. Now,
Mm.
even when you're writing an op ed, and that op ed has a disclaimer, these are the opinions of the writer, not the opinions of whoever, Global Times, CGTN, China Daily, whatever it is. These are my opinions based on my information. I must support every fact that I put out there. This is a rule. It's not a law. It's a rule in Chinese media, and it's carried down to Chinese social media. You can talk about Tiananmen Square. I was there just the other day, and my wife posted some pictures from Tiananmen Square. I think she did anyway. She said she was going to. But there's no problem talking about Tiananmen Square. What you do is leave out the word massacre because it didn't actually happen, and it wasn't in
Mm.
Tiananmen Square, and it was something that was externally controlled. And China has made it clear that you don't talk about this misinformation. That's the key word. You can talk about COVID, you can talk about what happened, and you can complain about the restrictions that we had, which were actually quite minor for most of us most of the time. Something like more than 90% of Chinese people were never locked down. But when they locked down Shanghai, of course, it's the international hub. Everybody who's in China has been to Shanghai, and a lot of foreigners lived there and were posting on TikTok saying how terrible it was. But it was Shanghai. I mean, it was a large population of people that were shut down. But go just outside of Shanghai into Jiangsu, and no one was locked down. No one at
Yeah.
all. So millions and millions of people were not. 1.39 million people, a billion people were not locked down when 25 million people were. And you put that into context, you're allowed to talk about that. You're not allowed to criticize the policies that were based on the science. You're not allowed to question the vaccines because the vaccines have caused no ill effects in China that I'm aware of.
Hmm.
They use a tried and tested methodology, and it was approved by the scientists who advised the government, who are mostly science based or engineering based people anyway. And so those people knew how to manage this properly. So if you want to say, oh, COVID started in a Wuhan lab, then you're going to get that post blocked. It's as simple as that. It will be taken down. Now, if you are constant or if you are really nasty, you will not get blocked. That post will not get blocked. You will be closed off the channel, and then you'll have to come back with a new name. So a lot of people inside of China are a little worried about this, but I'm not. I think that the censors are going to be very sensitive to what's being said by Americans. And I think they're going to be allowing a lot of questions to be asked, but they're not going to be allowing a lot of statements to be made. That's the
Mm.
difference. So if you come online and say, but what about Tiananmen Square? And people say, yeah, it's a great place. I went there for the flag raising and blah, blah, blah. And that's the answer to the question. That's never going to be a problem. But what about the massacre in Tiananmen Square? It's gone. That's how
Yeah.
it's going to go, in my opinion. So if you come to Chinese social media with this agenda of saying, I'm going to tell the Chinese what they don't know about their own country, then what the Chinese do know about their own country is going to override a lot of what you try to do. So the bad faith actors will be kicked off. I have no question, no doubts about that at all. Unfortunately, because the censors are very sensitive, some genuine people who are trying to genuinely find out will probably also have their posts deleted and perhaps even kicked off because they're trying to find information out. But we've already seen social credit score, we've already seen COVID. There are people asking questions about this and being answered inside of Chinese social media. So there are definitely some flexibilities being allowed. There are definitely, in fact, I don't know if those flexibilities are being allowed. I think they were always there. If you
Mm,
are in good faith and asking questions, the algorithm, because it's not done by, there are not millions of people looking at every single tweet. Believe me,
mhm.
they couldn't
Yeah.
be. The algorithm is looking at it and it will kick out some of the things that shouldn't be kicked out. I can see that happening. But I guess that's no different to how Twitter was a little while ago, how YouTube is now. Some of the comments, I get people telling me all the time, I put a comment up there, it's disappeared. That's happening, and it happens
Yeah.
because I've got two TikTok videos. One is about COVID, that's been banned for community guidelines. That's
Mm,
TikTok in America, controlled by America, and there's nothing sensitive or anything. Just because I mentioned the pandemic, I just made a
mm,
video recently about, is there a new pandemic in China? There is not. There is
mm.
flu, as you know. There is flu going around China right now, and that's
I know.
normal because it's winter. Yeah, wipe that nose. Yeah, it's winter and it happens, and the hospitals are not overwhelmed or even underwhelmed. They're just going through normal stuff. I asked two doctors for their opinions on it, one in Macau, one in the mainland, and they both said the same thing. Yeah, there's a bit of a surge in flu, but this is normal for the year, and it's nothing new. It's H1N1, which is an A
Mm.
type flu, which is, don't worry about it. It's, if you've got age, if you've got what do you call it, uh,
Immunodeficiencies.
compromised immune system, if you've got things like that going on, if you're a diabetic, you should try and get the jabs and avoid getting flu. Yeah, that's normal. It's nothing special. But I put that on TikTok, and it's been closed down because it violates community guidelines.
I think people need to understand that the China really gives a lot of importance to harmony. We've
Yeah,
talked about this before. Harmony above freedom. No freedom is absolute. Um, I have the freedom to extend my arm, but that ends where your nose begins. It's that simple. Uh,
yes.
if I stretch it beyond that point, then we got a fist
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah,
So,
that's actually a good way to describe it. And Western media is very divisive. Western social
mhm,
media is very divisive. We've seen that, and it's encouraged by the. This is how you make money on Western media, by being divisive, by saying things that cause people to come in and say you're wrong, and suddenly you find yourself, instead of having 7 comments on this, you have 700 comments, and you can kind of milk that and get your views up. And as you get your views up, you get more advertising revenue, and they love it. In China, they don't. You get more
mm.
advertising revenue if you have nice dancing, and people love what you put on there rather
I think
than
that
people
that's one of
argue.
the dangers. That's one of the dangers of this flowing of users into Xiaohongshu from the
Mm,
US, because we are seeing also a lot of celebrities popping onto Xiaohongshu and trying to capitalize on, well, the hot topic, much as we are right now, trying to get our message out there using the topic, but discussing it at depth. We see uh, the Kardashians, we see Candace Owens, we see many different actors. And
mm,
what I want to say is that a lot of the discussion, division, and vile rhetoric that is had in the West, that is used to distract you, manipulate you, confuse you, leave you unaware of what the truth is, and just resorting to your gut and following your own biases. That's the fear that those people
Mm.
are going to cross over and start planting those seeds in the minds of Chinese people. That is a danger. And behind those could be NGOs, could be people trying to manipulate population, something that they're very prolific at doing, something
Mm.
that they're very skillful at doing, the American three-letter agencies. So that to me is one of the risks and one of the dangers and one of the things that the Chinese government for sure is keeping an eye on.
Mm.
And that I think that Chinese people should be aware of that
It's
this kind of operation, that this kind of manipulation takes place. They are pervasive and they've been doing it for decades. So I don't know. That's my take. What about you, Jerry?
I'm inclined to agree with you, but I don't have the same degree of concern. I think they will, and they'll try and do this insidiously. But the problem is, you cannot get onto Chinese social media and talk about the 4th of June in Tiananmen Square. You can't. It'll just be blocked. It's simple as that. The algorithms will just take it down. So
Hmm.
the unless they are quite subtle and they need to be even to the point where they can use sarcasm, but it still doesn't matter how they do it, they're going to find themselves getting blocked by the algorithm, not by people, but by the
Mm,
algorithm, unless
mm,
they are very, very subtle. Now, Chinese people, and this is one of the things that I love the most about being in China, they are very straightforward people. They're very straightforward. You try and be subtle with the Chinese person, they go, you know, what are you talking about? You can be in a shop and they say, oh, this is a black one, and oh, we've got a blue one. Yeah, I know it's blue. I can see it's blue. It's the same thing. You don't have to show me. They're very, very good at stating the obvious.
yeah.
This is a feature of Chinese culture. They are very good at stating the obvious, and they're very good at understanding the obvious, but they're not very good with sarcasm. They're not very good with irony. They're not very good with the nuances that Western media will need to mislead them. And
Mm,
that's probably good. They're going to need to employ new people if they want to do this, and those people need to understand Chinese culture in depth, and they'll need to understand the Chinese language in depth, and then the algorithms will be there watching for them to understand these subtleties.
mm,
I don't think any American is good enough at this. No American I've ever met or seen or read has ever really understood the Chinese nature of their characteristics. They know they
mm,
have Chinese characteristics, but they don't understand the nature and the depth of those characteristics. So I think I don't have the same concern as you. I think
mm,
the Chinese algorithms will be already good enough to keep out anything that is not extremely subtle. And if it is extremely subtle, Chinese are going to go, well, that makes no sense to me, and they're going to scroll past it.
and well, I think to start to wrap up today's video, I like the idea of Chinese people trying to teach Chinese to Americans. I think that language is one of those things that brings us together.
Yes,
The
yeah.
Chinese have been learning English for decades. You and I know about this. We've been working in this industry, or we worked in this industry for quite a lot of years. So to see a lot of Chinese people um, lending a hand and a lot of Americans interested in learning Chinese, um, ground roots, we're not talking about like Trump's granddaughter or anything like that. We're talking about just people out there going like, "Hey, maybe I could learn some Chinese with some friend in Xiaohongshu."
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really really interesting phenomenon that could actually bring us closer together as people around the world.
It surely
What
will.
is yeah.
It It absolutely will. And here's the interesting thing. If you take a look on Xiaohongshu and you look at people like Andy Borum and Harold in China, these guys speak fluent Chinese. Or
Mm,
if they're not fluent, they're certainly more fluent than I'll ever be. But I think they are fluent Chinese. I know that Andy has a master's degree in Chinese,
yeah.
and he did it in China. So, I mean, his level of Chinese far surpasses anything I will ever reach in my lifetime. And these guys are doing very, very well. Now, you don't need to be a fluent Chinese speaker to do very well. What you need
Yeah.
is to be open to be able to speak Chinese. 你会说英文吗 is all you need to say to someone that you meet on, and they go, "Wow, you can speak Chinese." You go, "Oh, 不会,真的,我不骗你." And I don't really speak Chinese. That's all you need. They will love you for
Hmm.
trying. And
Yeah.
you tell them what your favorite food is. I like dapanji, or I like huego roll, or whatever it is. And they go, "Wow, you understand Chinese culture. You're so good. I'm going to follow you." That's what it's going to need. It just needs people to try, people to be open, and it's going to be very, very good. If someone comes onto Xiaohongshu as a foreigner and says, "I'm learning about Chinese culture," because the one thing Chinese people are very, very proud of is their 5,000 years of history and traditions and cultures, and the intangible cultures, which are all getting, I mean, this is a great word. I learned this word about 5 or 6 years ago, the intangible cultural heritage, or this phrase, where they're going to UNESCO and they're registering this kind of embroidery, or this kind of tapestry,
Mm,
or this kind of china pottery, or this kind of artwork. And this dance and this song, they love it. All you got to do is have an interest. And once you start that, you can't stop, because that's what China is. It is addictive. You and I both know this. Neither of
yeah.
us came here with a view to staying 20 or more years. I think you're 24, 25 years now, aren't you? And
24.
neither of us came here with this view. We are addicted to China. And it
True.
is that kind of place. So I think Xiaohongshu is going to be a superb add-on to what they've already got. There's a lot of Chinese people, a lot of Chinese culture already on TikTok in the West. Even if it doesn't get banned, I think the floodgate is open. The
Mm,
siege is over. And what's happened is there's a breach in the Great Firewall, and it's not to keep Chinese people in. The breach is to allow foreigners to come in and see what's going on inside the fortress. And they're not going, they are being surprised. Every one of them. I mean, everything I've seen is positive. I
and
mean,
they're gonna be
there's been
start
a couple
asking
of,
questions. They're gonna start
yes,
asking questions of the legislators, of the leaders, of the presidents, of the Senate, of Congress, and like, why can't we have what they have?
yeah,
Why can we have what they have? And if you're unsatisfied with your government, why haven't you revolted? I mean, think about it. The
yeah.
Chinese did it in 1911. They did it
And
again in
1949,
1949.
yeah.
Exactly. So they have the government that they want. Do
And
you
that's a
have the
very
government that you
interesting
want?
comment that you just made. That's a really interesting comment you just made, because China will never encourage this. If a
Mm,
Chinese person says, "Well, why don't you revolt against your government?" that would get squashed as well. This is
mm,
not China's way. Harmony is
yeah,
China's way. China are just as likely to censor you and I being negative about America as they are an American being negative about China.
I
Just as
know that.
likely to censor it. And that's a really good point you just raised. Well done for raising that.
All right, friends. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And well, until we see you again, Jerry, any last thought?
Um, I'm going to get myself a little red book. I've got the little red book, but I have a plan over the after the Chinese New Year. I have a plan to employ either an intern or a college leaver to help me to break into the Chinese market, because I mean I can do the subtitles, but the editing of the subtitles, it all takes a long time to do. And I
Yeah.
know that there are apps that you can do it in, but they still need to be edited. And I'm trying not to sit at my desk for 15 hours a day. So
Mm,
consequently, in the future, I think I will be employing someone to help me with the back of house side of my own social media. And that will mean
Mm.
getting into Chinese social media, which is something I've never, ever done. Not to make money, but just to show, to be the bridge between the two cultures. But I think I'm not going to be the only bridge. I think I'll be one of about 20 million bridges. And I think this is a great, great initiative. Organic, not even an initiative, it was an organic process that just happened because America shot themselves somewhere near their heart and they're now bleeding to death.
You get 300 million Chinese on Xiaohongshu
Yeah.
telling China's story well, which is what we've always wanted.
We don't need to do any more. We can relax.
All right, friends. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye for now.